The Game Genie, the video game enhancer that has divided gamers over the years as to whether this is truly a fun piece of hardware that can enhance the gaming experience, or are you just a big old cheater? And today this video is going to be dedicated to why we love the Game Genie. So don't feel shy about sharing any experience you've had with the Game Genie in the comments. And today I'm going to start off by sharing my own personal experiences with the accessory and even talk about some things that I'd forgotten or didn't even ever realize about the Game Genie. So let's get started. And if this is your first time here at the channel, my name is Tyler, and if you love gaming from all generations like we do here at G3, then consider hitting that subscribe button and hit that bell for notifications so you don't miss anything. Alright, so I'll take you back to when I first experienced the Game Genie. I must have been around 8 years old or so because the Game Genie came out in 1990, and this was around the time that it first was released because I hadn't even seen a commercial about it. I knew nothing about the Game Genie. A local mom and pop grocery store near my house had started renting video games, so I go to the store one day with my mom, and the first thing you see when you walk in is the display of video games to rent across the way. And I noticed just to the left of the games is this thing that they actually have for sale, not for rent, and they typically didn't have anything that you could just buy. And it was that long purple Game Genie box, and I was like, okay, this is something I've never seen before. Is this like just a special video game? I didn't get it. Kind of had that same aura as the Zelda cartridge in the Zelda boxes because it was like a bigger box, different color. It just stood out from anything else, but I knew it was NES. And this is well before the time we knew anything about this not being actually a product from Nintendo, that it was from Galoob and first created by, I think, some English company called Codemasters, and the whole legal battle that would ensue with Nintendo. So I thought this was just going to be something new from Nintendo that I was just going to have. And the way the rentals were set up at this store, it was pretty high up and pretty far away, so I couldn't make out all the fine print on the box. I remember I could see that it said Game Genie. You had that red genie that looked like it was coming out of a gold NES cartridge or something like that. And then I remember at the top, I could barely make out, it says like unlock the power of the NES. I believe that's what it said. So I asked one of the people working at the store if I could see the box to see what it was. And it was a box just like this. Obviously it wasn't the exact one because of course I threw it away, you know how I am. But I do remember her giving me the box and I started reading off. Just like here it says, start on any level you want, more power, more speed, more weapons, infinite lives. I mean, when I saw infinite lives, I kind of lost it. I don't know how it really plugged in with the NES cartridges, but basically this just completely unlocked the NES. I thought it was just going to be like the Wild West. You could literally do whatever you want. My little brain couldn't comprehend the codes or anything like that. So I was hooked at this point. I knew this was something that I was going to be obsessing over until one day I could maybe get my hands on it. I don't remember exactly what they had it priced at, but it definitely wasn't something that I was just going to ask my parents for. I knew it was pretty expensive, and it's definitely not the same as asking them to rent you a game. And every time we would revisit the store, I would still look, and that same Game Genie box was there. They only had one. And I don't remember saying anything exactly to my parents, but I'm sure my mom or my dad saw me staring at that Game Genie box every time I went in there. One day we come back to the store and I noticed the box is gone. So my heart sank a little bit. I was like, well, I guess somebody bought it. And I think I even asked one of the workers there, and they were like, yeah, somebody got the Game Genie. So I was a little bummed, but we still just did our shopping. We rented probably another video game, looked at some movie rentals and such like that. So we go home later that day, and on the counter of my old house was the Game Genie box. I guess either my mom or my dad had already bought it for me that day and had it waiting there for me. So that was a complete shock to me, and that's definitely one of the best gaming memories I had because I thought that Game Genie was long gone. I'd never seen it in any other store really at the time in my area. So of course I couldn't wait to use the Game Genie, so I ripped that box open and I'm sure just trashed it and threw it away like I always do. Eventually I got it to where I could pull out and actually see the Game Genie and the code book, and I was a little bit disheartened, I'd be honest, because I was like, oh, you have to put in codes for each game. You only have 3 codes to use. But I mean, I was still pretty amazed that you could still get infinite lives. But yeah, like I said earlier, I thought it was just going to be something magical. You plug and play and you could have free reign to do whatever you want in your games. But I guess that was a little crazy to think that. And I believe the first game I used was Super Mario Brothers, of course, and I did the infinite lives, which was pretty awesome to just be able to lackadaisically go through the game, not have to worry about dying and all the continues starting over. So I thought it was pretty amazing, of course. And yeah, this is actually still my OG Game Genie book. I think it's held up pretty well over the years. Gosh, I thumbed through this thing many a times. And I found it really helpful, especially like when you were just renting a game and you didn't really get to experience much of the game and really didn't have time to truly just grind and die a bunch of times and try to get through a game. It's something that you could really help yourself get through a game if you only had it a day or two. And to be honest, the Game Genie was kind of a lifesaver for my actual NES because like the spring-loaded mechanism in the old toaster style NES was having trouble. Sometimes it would randomly pop up or it really wouldn't get the pins into the cartridge right, and gosh, I'd be getting that blinking red light all the time. 99% of the time, if I had a Game Genie cartridge loaded in with the control deck, I had no issue starting a game up. And I definitely remember using the Game Genie on Punch-Out a lot. I mean, I think there was one code like SZVALPAX or something like that. We'll see if that's right. I'll check it in the book. And I never really realized this at the time until I was reading through the book as an adult, that apparently you could create your own codes for the game. This completely was not on my radar back then. And definitely share with me some codes that you guys used back then or you created on your own. I don't see how this all slipped past me, but I do want to try it out, so please share. And apparently you could subscribe for updates with new codes. Again, apparently I did not thoroughly read through this book, so I'm kind of bummed I didn't try to experience that. So yeah, I became pretty hooked with the Game Genie, and eventually it was one of those things that I got a Game Genie for my Game Boy, my Game Gear, my Genesis. And I remember it got pretty ridiculous once it was on the Genesis because I had like my original Sega console on top of my Model 1 Sega CD, then the 32X, then a Game Genie, then if you put like an EA Sports game with it, it was this gigantic monstrous tower. I mean, look at this monstrosity. This was insane. Now, what's your thoughts on the Game Genie? I know some people will consider it cheating, but I do think that's a relative term. I mean, yes, if you're competing with somebody, yes, it is completely cheating because you can have infinite lives, you don't decrease your energy or whatever. And even Nintendo would say this was derivative towards their games and their arguments about having a lawsuit against the people that created the Game Genie. And eventually they lost because I personally think it doesn't take away from the games. It just helps you have new experiences with them. Yes, if you want to say that you truly beat the game, don't use the Game Genie. But if you're just wanting to have fun, revisit a game in a new way, I mean, how could you not love the Game Genie? Alright guys, so again, please share with me all of your experiences with the Game Genie. Good or bad, NES, Game Gear, Game Boy, whatever you had it for. I don't care whatever you want to say about the Game Genie. Just please share it with us in the comments. And special thanks to Danger Dave E7U for finding Mullet Boy first in our last video. Till next time guys, G3 out.